Housing costs are out of control. I don't know, but it sounds like it's time for us to come together as a society and put together rent strikes in the major cities across the United States. From 1985 to 2020, rent prices have increased 149%, while income grew just by $35. Home values increased 17% in 2021, pricing many would-be homebuyers out of the market. As a result, the demand for rentals have spiked, causing vacancy rates to fall to 5.6% in 2021, which is the lowest that vacancy rates have been since 1984. Now landlords have the power to market prices for a limited number of available units. Meanwhile, 58% of renters are currently living paycheck to paycheck. The rent-to-income ratio is 89% higher for millennials than it was for baby boomers at the same age in 1985. The average baby boomers in their 30s earned $48,113 and paid an average of $359 for an apartment in 1985. This is a 9% rent-to-income ratio. The average millennial in their 30s earned $64,994 in 2020 and paid $894 for a rental unit. And this is a 17% rent-to-income ratio. Now, keep in mind, these are average rent prices, which can be lower or much higher depending on the region of the United States that an individual decides to live in. From 2000 to 2022, median home prices increased 150% nationwide, while median rents increased 90%. Now, aren't these rent prices asinine? Okay, so let's talk about rent strikes to combat price gouging. Rent strikes are a method of protest commonly employed against large landlords. Emphasis on large landlords. Rent strikes have often been used in response to problems such as high rents, poor conditions in the property, or unreasonable tenancy demands, but carries the obvious risk of eviction and blemishes on a person's rental history in some cases. Now, let me tell you guys about all of the past rent strikes that have occurred in New York. Now, there has been many that have occurred around the country, but I want to focus specifically on New York because that is the region that I am in. So we have the anti-rent movement of New York between the years of 1839 and 1845. These are also known as the Anti-Rent and Helderberg War. This happened upstate New York. Tenants declared their independence from the manor system, which was run by patroons, resisting tax collectors and successfully demanding land reform. Now, the manor system was a method of land ownership in parts of Europe, France, and England during the Middle Ages. So a manor house is where the lord of the manor and his dependents lived, which consisted of a rural estate and a population of laborers who worked the surrounding land to support themselves and the lord. The tenants would fulfill obligations with labor time and maybe by cash payments. So a patroon was a landholder with manorial rights to large tracts of land in the 17th century Dutch colony of New Netherland on the east coast of the United States. So next we have New York City rent strikes in 1907. So in response to rising rents due to housing shortages, 10,000 families on the Lower East Side went on a rent strike. One of the primary organizers was 16-year-old Pauline Newman, along with housewives and working class women in the garment industry. It lasted from December 26, 1907 until January 9, 1908, and this led to about 2,000 families having their rents reduced. Next, we have the Communist Party and American Labor Party efforts in the 1930s and 1940s. So, during the Great Depression and through the end of World War II, labor unions played a major role in the mass mobilization of the working class. The labor unions combined forces with leftist political organizations like the Communist Party and the American Labor Party to rally three major policy changes, which was rent control, public housing, and building code enforcement. So just a little background history. The Communist Party of the United States of America was established in 1919 after a split between the Social Party of America following the Russian Revolution. It also became known for opposing racism and fighting integration in workplaces and communities during the height of the Jim Crow period of racial segregation. The American Labor Party was a political party established in 1936 and ended in 1956 that was active almost exclusively in the state of New York. The organization was founded by labor leaders and former members of the Socialist Party of America. Next, we have the New York City rent strikes over repairs. So in the winter of 1963 through 1964, a rent strike erupted in Harlem, New York City. It was led by Jesse Gray, a tenant organizer there since 1953. The focus of the rent strike was not rent levels, but poor maintenance. Then we have the national wave of rent strikes throughout the U.S. in the 1960s and 1970s. Rent strikes spread through the U.S. in response to the chronic neglect of repairs in both urban, private, and public housing stock. So first, we have the Tenant Student Alliance led by Mary Runyon starting in 1961. Though largely symbolic, generated media traction and political clout for the movement. Second, we had a radical black movement led by the Black Panther Party and Young Lords Party, used as a direct action approach to bring attention to the failings of the state and encourage poor New York City neighborhoods to take charge of abandoned properties. After the Harlem rent strikes in 1963 and 1964, it became a popular tactic among students in university towns and public housing tenants who are living in squalor conditions due to lack of funding and racial federal policies. So, the Black Panther Party was started in 1966 before it was dismantled by the CIA in 1982. It was started by college student Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton in Oakland, California. The party's core practice was cop watching because of excessive force from the Oakland Police Department. They also created social programs like the Free Breakfast Program from 1969 onward, education programs, and community clinics. The Young Lords Party was established in September 23rd, 1968, and it started out as a street gang that became a civil and human rights organization. Jose Chacha Jimenez reorganized them and formed the Young Lords as a national political and civil rights movement. They aimed to fight for neighborhood improvement and self-determination for Puerto Rico, Latinos, and colonized people that resided in third world countries. Now, are rent strikes legal? So Section 755 of the Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law and Section 230 and 223 of the Real Property Law support the right to organize, to withhold rent for lack of repairs, and prohibit landlords from suing tenants in retaliation for organizing. So here is how to start a rent strike. Now, this can be done by starting a petition demanding the suspension of rent, articulating demands, and threatening rent strikes if enough people sign up. So, what do you think about the increase in rent prices lately? Let's discuss in the comments. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more. The end.